Welcome to the All In Podcast, the show that explores how the top real estate entrepreneurs have gone all in on their businesses. I'm your host, David Morse, with my co-host, Joe Quattrucci, and I invite you to come along with us as we explore the stories of the most elite professionals in the game today to learn how they went all in and how you and I can do the same. So I just have to ask, are you all in? Welcome back, everyone, to episode number 13. We're already 13 episodes in, Joe.
That's incredible.
Crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun.
We've had some amazing guests, and we have another one today. Guys, welcome to the All In Podcast. You know the drill. This is the podcast where we talk to top real estate professionals across the globe. And today, we have one of my own. I'm fortunate to be in business with this guy, Kelly Cook. How's it going, Kelly?
What's going on, gents?
Thanks for being here, Kelly. Love it. Love to jump right in with you. Bring us back to the beginning. Tell our listeners a little bit about how you got started and when you got started in real estate.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting story. One that I try to tell my team quite a bit because it's not it's not go fast quick, right? Unfortunately, it's one that started pretty awkward, to be honest with you, but.
I like awkward.
Awkward is good, right? You know, awkward is good. I think a lot of people can relate to awkwardness. So I grew up in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. You know, we were talking about Maine earlier, right? Where you guys are from. So we have the largest town in Nebraska, or city, is actually not bad, right? It's about 1 million people, Omaha, Nebraska. So not bad size. Grew up there, pretty humble, pretty small. Never left like the Midwest my entire life, right? You know, just that's all I really knew. Then one day, I'm playing football at the University of Nebraska. We go to
what position?
Wide receiver.
Nice.
Wide receiver. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fast. All right.
Split end to be. I wasn't the guy who came across the middle like the wing backs or the flankers, right?
Okay.
I'm on the outside. You know, just this guy could run kind of fast. You know, and do some things. Blocked a lot too. Back in that offense, we blocked a lot. Let's be clear about that, right? But it's, I tell you what, there's something to be said about when it's 3rd and 4, even as a wide receiver, and 80,000 people in the stadium know, including their team, know what we're going to do. We're going to run, but can you stop us, right? And even the wide receiver, that you take that really serious, right? You know, we're blocking on the perimeter, but so what, right? It's the niche is what we did, you know? We were all in on running the football.
Hey,
right?
I like that. I mean, as a Patriots fan, that is sorely missing Rob Gronkowski and the mutiny there. I mean, that's a man who knew his how to block and tackle. But anyway,
he did. No, you're right. He did very well. No one talks about his blocking, but he's a really good blocker. Okay, so we're sitting there, and one day we get invited to play in the Fiesta Bowl. And so, you know, it's December like 26th maybe or 25th, Christmas Day, whatever. And we fly, never forget, we fly from Lincoln, Nebraska to Phoenix, Arizona for the Fiesta Bowl in 1999 playing Tennessee. We're ranked number 3 in the country. They're number 4. Fly down to Phoenix, land, and it was 20-some degrees, 21, 22 degrees, and it was snowing when we left Lincoln, Nebraska. We land here, and we went to the Sky Harbor, obviously, and then we went to Scottsdale Plaza Resort where we stayed as a team. And this whole time, we get out of the plane, I'm like, what? Like, dude, I mean, I was a simpleton growing up, right? Like, Midwest guy, didn't go anywhere, parents didn't have any money, that kind of thing. And I'm sitting there going, what? Like, why didn't someone tell me about this place, right? It's 78 degrees, and people are playing tennis at the Scottsdale Plaza Resort outside my hotel room, right, in December. What is going on? So, anyway, needless to say, by the way, we won that game, and we won. We won.
Of course you did.
Yes, yeah, it wasn't even close. But needless to say, I remember that. And 2004 comes around. I'm coaching football at Ole Miss University in Mississippi in the SEC conference, and our head coach is fired, David Cutcliffe. And our head coach is fired, and now he's doing a great job, by the way, at the Duke program. You know, down there, turned that football program around last 8 years or so. He gets fired. Well, when the head coach is fired, we're all fired, right? Well, a year prior, I was at Nebraska as a graduate assistant coach there. Well, Frank Solich was fired. Then I was fortunate, lucky, whatever, fortunate to get on one of the 8 GA positions in the entire Division I in the country that year. I got one of them at Ole Miss. So I go down there, and David Cutcliffe gets fired. 4-7, just lost Eli Manning the year before, trying to rebuild. Still beat our rival, Mississippi State, handily, right? But wasn't good enough. They fired him. So I'm thinking, if most professions, if you chose to work 90 hours a week minimum, you'd probably be pretty successful. because that's what you do. People don't realize that college football coaches work that much. When you throw in recruiting, especially right in the off season and that kind of stuff, you work. It's a 6-7 day week of job. I don't know, 10 months out of the year. So working a lot, and as a GA making $800 a month.
A month?
No joke.
working like 70, 80, 90.
Yeah, working 2 jobs basically. Over 2 jobs. So, but the NCAA, can do that because they're giving you free graduate credit towards your graduate degree, right, as a graduate assistant coach. Anyways, so I said, I got to take a year off. I got to take a year off and figure this out. I wanted to stay in coaching, I thought, right? I really enjoy coaching. That's what I love to do at heart. So anyways, I came out to Arizona because Fiesta Bowl and the warm weather, I'm like, I had a sister living here at the time. And I had no money. I was upside down, to be honest with you, right? But she was living here with a husband and no kids, 4-bedroom house in Scottsdale. To me, it's like, okay, do I do that, or do I drive, or do I go back to Omaha, take a year off there where I'm from? And both parents, divorced since I was like 8, each had a 1-bedroom apartment. Okay, so I sleep on the couch or get my own room in Scottsdale. Pretty easy decision, right? So I just drive out to Scottsdale and say, I'm taking a year off, this is what I'm doing. So I come out here and December 2004, we didn't make it to a bowl game that year because we were fired, right? We were 4-7. And then I got into, and then I just literally was sitting around. This is how it happened. This is no joke, guys, what happened. So I'm sitting around. They're renting a house at the time in Scottsdale. I'm sitting around on like a Tuesday. I think it was a Tuesday afternoon, 1 o'clock, unemployed, late January of 2005 at this point. And the landlord comes over to change some air filters. So I start talking to him and he goes, yeah, I'm in real estate. And I go, oh, okay. So you own this house? He goes, yeah, I do that, but I also sell real estate. I'm a realtor. And I go, cool. What is that? Like, I know what that does, but tell me more about that. And he goes, because I had no idea. Right. And he's like, well, blah, 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 blah. Told me, and he goes, yeah, and last month I made $25,000, and dude, I stopped my tracks and I was like, wait, you mean last year, right? You made $25,000 because like that.
You're like, I made $2,500 last year.
Exactly. And he goes, no. Last month I closed 5 transactions, about $5,000 each deal, and made $25,000. And I go, what? How do I do that? And so, you just go get licensed and blah, blah, blah. And so he leaves. I go right to the computer there, which is probably a big desktop at that time. It's 2005, right? A lot has changed in 2005. There's no Zillow, none of that stuff, right? No YouTube. I look it up and I get licensed, about 3 months later, So really May of 2005, I'm all in, ready to go, right? License, ready to go. So that's how I got started.
So it almost sounds like a series of coincidences and by accidents happened, which ultimately kind of led you into the door of real estate. This wasn't something that was premeditated or planned. Life just kind of happened, which opened up this opportunity for you.
That's it.
And so once you started researching and learning about it, you get your license. So tell us about your transition after you got your license. What did that first year or 2 years look like breaking into the business?
Yeah, good question. Well, let's be clear. I got into real estate because that guy said that, right? And I was like incredibly intriguing. But I really got into it, to be honest with you, I got into it primarily because I really wanted to be an NFL sports agent. That's what I wanted to do. So when he told me that and I realized what that did, realtor, right? I go, okay, hold on. So you have a fiduciary to your client if you're selling a house, right? You have a fiduciary if you're an NFL agent to your athlete you're representing in contract negotiations, et cetera. You're doing very much the same thing, right? And I want to do that. And real estate gives me the flexibility to fly around to a football game, watch some college games, meet some grandmas and moms and dads and that kind of stuff, and shake some hands, kiss some babies and all that stuff, right? Watch some games and hopefully sign athletes to represent. So I did that. I became a licensed NFL agent for 5 years. Went to Washington, D.C. and got my certification. And I mean, the thing that the real estate industry honestly could learn from this, I won't go on a soapbox, but I could, but I won't. But I will say this.
Go on a soapbox and we'll stop you if it's...
Okay. Okay. All right, deal. So is that in that industry, NFL licensing as an agent with the NFL Players Association, it's a lot more regulated, right? This is where I'm going with this. Meaning, what they do is, first of all, to even apply, you have to have a MBA, a law degree, or you have to get a variance or an exception based upon significant negotiating experience. Like maybe you're a boxing promoter for 20 years, that kind of thing. They would let you apply if you didn't have that graduate degree. So that's number one. Then it's very expensive, right? Your application process is several $1,000s. Okay, you got to fly to Washington, D.C. for a weekend, 3 or 4 days, and then pass the test. Very, very, very tough. And then on top of that, you have to carry malpractice insurance as an attorney. And that's not cheap either. That's several $1,000s a year. And if you have no clients, that adds up quick, right? On top of that, You have to, now it may have changed since then, right? But so I don't want to speak for that, but back then, and it could be the same now, you had to negotiate an active 53-man player's contract on the active roster once every 3 years. Otherwise, guess what they do? You're gone, right? You got to start all over again, reapplying if you want to do it again, right? And by the way, you can only apply once a year. You can't take the test once a week. Sound familiar in real estate? Yeah.
So essentially, I mean, there is a threshold of skill and capital needed to be able to get into this, and I assume that's kind of where we're going. Because we all know, sitting at this table, that getting into real estate looks a lot different, and there's pros for that. Someone making nothing can go and get his license and build what we're going to eventually talk about. But also, there's a two-edged sword there.
Yeah. That's right. And I now, obviously now, maybe I would have felt differently back in 2005, like you just said, starting out in real estate with nothing, right? But now, certainly, I'm like, my goodness, like it's not really about the fees necessarily, because people have money. Some people who have money, right, still want to do this as a hobby. But man, if you just had some time, you added to it, I don't know, go to school for a year, that kind of thing, and then hey, sell 6 homes a year. If you're full-time, you should be able to do that, 6 homes a year, or maybe 4, I don't know, but like something,
Right.
I wish that NAR would look at that, but I understand why they don't, I get that. We all understand that. And I'm not going to change it by just talking about it here probably, but
one of the beauties, though, is as a business owner, you have the opportunity to at least police and institute some of the standards and expectations that we're even getting into a little bit, and I think we'll get into that. So 2005, I want to pick up 2005. You're getting in. Obviously, if for experienced real estate professionals that are listening to this, 2005 is an interesting time. We're getting really close to some stuff, and so I just want to, what did you experience in those first initial years in growing your business while also doing this player agent?
Good point. So I'm obviously really focusing on trying to do the agent thing from the NFL standpoint. Like, that's my love, because I'm a sports guy, or I'm a football guy, right? So, however, the real estate, as I started diving into it more and more, started intriguing me, right? Because there was more of that to do, right? Because anyone down the street potentially could be a homeowner and therefore may need your services, right? Whereas NFL is quite different. So, honestly, this is how I started, man. I joined this little boutique brokerage in a subdivision here in Scottsdale. And they had about 20% of the market at the time, right? So it made sense. And I basically, honestly, what it was, a football contact I had, knew somebody there, so that's why I went. I mean, that's literally how it went down, right? So I went to this little tiny brokerage. And make a long story short, I didn't know what to do the first day, let's say, right? Or the first week for that matter. So I go in there, and one guy gave me some advice. He goes, hey, why don't you try to do rentals? Now, there's still, for those of you guys listening maybe around the country, there may not be a rental market for an agent necessarily in your market, but in Arizona, Phoenix, there is, and definitely was back then, even more so, right? And so he goes, yeah, why don't you try working rentals? And so, okay, he goes, yeah, because chances are, if they want to buy a house they might want to buy a house in 12 months, right? That kind of thing. So, okay, that makes sense. So I literally borrowed $40, never forget this, right? Because I called the Arizona Republic, which is the newspaper. Yeah, those existed back then, right? And I called the newspaper up and I said, okay, what are the costs? I couldn't do Sunday, too expensive. But on Saturday, I took out a 3-line ad in the Saturday Arizona Republic newspaper, $40 for a free list of rentals, maybe there wasn't even a comma, I don't know because that's too many. Call Kelly C or Kelly Cook, whatever, right? 480, my number, right? And that was it, 3 lines, right? And that's literally how I started, $40. And so I started getting some phone calls because back then, if you had a listing, right? You advertised, half page, quarter page, whatever. That's what you did, right? There was no YouTube and Zillow and this and that, right? So you went there and you advertised. I couldn't compete with that. That was very expensive because these are people who are successful, experienced agents. So the rental side, even though it was a little tiny ad, it actually worked a little bit. My phone wasn't ringing off the hook, but it was ringing, right? So I started hustling. I was showing people rental houses, and that's what I was doing with the whole concept of, hey, they'll like me. I'll stay in touch with them for a year. When they go to buy, they won't even go anywhere else, right? And that's what I did. So that's how I got started.
Well, what I like about that approach is you basically learned the nurture game right out of the gate. You had to nurture them over a period of time. And I notice a lot of agents when they're getting started, they sometimes have a hard time understanding. Just because they're not a yes today doesn't mean they won't be a yes at some point in the future. That's right. And so you learned how to nurture a relationship right from the beginning.
That's right. And I wish I would have had, I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have, a team I could have joined. I didn't know that they didn't have any teams at all. At this brokerage, there's probably 35 agents. So then, back then that was more of the model, right? Being individual. So I just was trying to figure this out myself. Knowing the broker owner was, he's the one to give me the idea about the rental, but he wasn't around. He was out selling real estate and doing his thing. So I was just trying to figure it out, right? So I was nurturing, like you said, but didn't really know what I was even doing. I was just doing it, right? I had an Excel spreadsheet. I never forget, right? And I didn't have a database or CRM, right? And I literally would I helped someone get into a rental. I had a couple columns I created and I put their name in there and then I would just think about calling them because someone did say that one time, right? I heard it on, I don't know what it was. Maybe I read a book or something, right? And you should keep in touch with people and blah, blah, blah. And that's what I did, right? And now, let's be clear, I didn't do a great job of it, but I did a pretty good job of it because I was just determined that's all I had. Sure. So that's what I was doing. And then here comes late 2006, and all of a sudden, the market starts getting a little shaky. 07, really the second quarter of 07 in Arizona is where we really saw it. Obviously, 08 is when everything collapsed. Yeah. But so late 06, early 07, all of a sudden I was this young, hardworking kid in the office, at 24, whatever it was, and all of a sudden this agents who were very established, making a lot of money with the gravy train, right, of 03, 4, and 5. Hey, Kelly, I got this. My client was selling her house. They were upside down. It's called a short sell, I think. I don't even know what to do. Can you just do it for me? They didn't want referral fees. Can you just handle it? I'm not calling a bank and sitting on there on hold. No, I'm not. It's kind of above their pay grade, right? I'll absolutely take it. Thank you, right? So I just took their client and I started doing the short sale. I had no idea what I was doing either. I remember the first net sheet guys ever did. The bank, I called the bank up. I forget which bank it was, to be honest with you, but they didn't even know what they even explain how to do it, right? They're like, wait, you're upside down, you want to sell a house? I'm like, yeah. Otherwise he can't pay you anymore.
I think it's called a short sale.
Right, I think it's called a short sale, right? And
they pull open their big book and then
Right, exactly. And I had this purchase contract of this house because of course I didn't do it ahead of time. I just put it on the market because I didn't know what I was doing. And I had this contract. I go, but it's less than what he owes. What do you want me to do? And I never forget, this lady was like she literally didn't know what to tell me. She was like, this is late 06, right? She's like, okay, let me put you on hold. Okay, talk to my supervisor. We need some sort of sheet that says what we net. I'm like, okay, so where do I get that? She goes, I don't know. Get a sheet, right? I'm like, so I just grab a sheet of notebook paper and write out purchase price, some expenses. She goes, yeah. No, and I go, what? She goes, fax it to this number, right? And I'm like, I swear this is what happened, right? And so that's what I did. I literally took a sheet of a mean notebook paper, ripped it out, and I wrote purchase price. And I didn't know, I'm new. I didn't know what all the expenses even go on the HUD, right? This is my fourth deal I ever closed probably. And I'm sitting there going, so anyways, I came up with some net. Of course, you make sure the commission's in there, right? That was very important. I didn't forget that one. And put it in there. And I don't know, it was 6 months later, finally, we got approval, and I remember sold that house, right? In the meantime, while this is happening, other short sales are coming on. Now it's starting to pick up pace, and still people were in denial, agent-wise, right? They're like, I don't want to do this, right? Sure, the gravy train will continue. I'll just sell some regular houses, And then before you know it, it was really good for a while there, and then it still remained good. And I'll be honest with you guys, from 2014, not to fast forward too much, but 2014 was the only year since starting in 05 that I did not increase my gross income every year. And 14 was just because now we pivoted out of short sale into normal, and I was just a little slow to react on that one, right? I just saw it coming, but just didn't, But 15 was then rebounded quite nicely. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that was the cool thing about it, right? Is I just kept grinding. I'm just more of a grinder. It took me a while to figure out how to work smart. I had no problem working hard. I mean, when you're working 95 hours a week, running around as a college grunt football coach, right? You just figure out that work ethic's not an issue. So, but
it's amazing, and I think everyone needs to rewind back and make sure that you picked up on the nugget of putting the commission there, depending on what market we head into in the next. We can go there different time, but it's just interesting because really, and I say this a lot, and it's probably getting redundant, but opportunity so much is just about keeping your head up. Watching your landlord put a filter in and asking a question and hearing that response altered the trajectory of where you're going. Hearing an agent's thing about the rentals and just taking that advice and just saying, I'm going to try it and figure out what made a massive impact. And the piece about it's not over your pay grade. I'll take it and I'm going to try it. And that's huge. And it led to a decade of success, really.
Yeah. I know what's really cool too is that about a year ago, I'm at a Christmas party here in Scottsdale, and I was like, man, I got familiar. His name's Brian. I saw Brian, right? He's not even in real estate anymore, right? The guy who came in, and I told my wife, I got to go say something to him, right? And I said, dude, hey, I don't remember me, but and he goes, yeah, right? And he goes, dude, I've seen your signs, and this and that, like, you're doing great. And like, he's out of real estate, right? But I was like, man, I got to thank you, man, because that day changed the trajectory of my life, because of the advice you gave me. It really wasn't, it was advice, but it was more so like, I just had a great month. And then, but yeah, if you want to do it, here's what you do. And okay. And then there you go.
So bring us up to speed with where you are today. Describe your current team structure and your niche, your specialty, and kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we have a total of 22 people on our team. And that it consists of 4 admin, support staff, operations, right? Employees. And then I have agents. The rest are agents. And we have a mixture. We have some part-time agents. We don't look for necessarily part-time agents necessarily, but there's some people that come on the team and for whatever reason kind of segue into that lifestyle, right? And that's totally fine, but they still like the team and that sort of thing. So we say, absolutely, please stay on, right? If we can help you do one deal a year, but so we have, I think, 4 agents in that kind of mode. Outside of that, we have everyone else that's full-time, and we've been trying to grow and focusing on that the last year, 12 to 18 months. So we have some new agents, right? And not necessarily young in age, but just new in the business, right? And so we're trying to help them get up to speed, and some of them are doing a really, really good job. So that's how we're comprised. Now we have 3 different divisions how we break up our team. Right down the middle, I draw like 3 bubbles, right? We have the first bubble is admin operations, right? So in the middle, that's the spine, that's the backbone of what we do, right? Without them, we'd have a really hard time running the business, right? Then we have 2 other on each side divisions, if you will, right, of our small little team. One is business development, and that's where we have growth, the growth side, right? That person in charge of the growth side, as well as the first 3 deals an agent does when they first come on our team, our agent training program. We call it our red shirt program because of football, right? So that's right. That's
I could have guessed.
Do your first 3 deals, and then you graduate, right? You get on the field, right? And then you go to our other side, which is sales, right? So then we run a pod system in that. So which I like about the pod system is scalable, right? So if one day we are fortunate enough to grow really big, it's very scalable. And while doing so, it allows the agent on the team who might want more of a responsibility or a challenge outside of just selling real estate to have that by when they qualify to simply leave a pod and start a pod, right? So you could have 2 pods, you could have 10 pods, 100 pods, you could have 1 person on a pod each, or 20 under 1 pod each, 1 pod leader, right? Because every pod has a pod leader. And that person then it gets a chance to coach those agents, make sure they do a good job and all that sort of thing, right? Be a mentor, as well as make, obviously a financial override off their production. So that's kind of the system. And so we now also have, as part of those agents on that 22 person roster, so to speak, we also have one of those pods. Our second pod is our commercial team. So we currently have a commercial division comprised right now of 4 commercial full-time only brokers. And the cool thing about it is it's also expansion. So my sister came over from Marcus Millichap in Chicago 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, after being there for 5 or 6 years, and she took on the commercial division or arm of our team. So now we have that folded under our team in Chicago, Lincoln Park, that KW Market Center there, and they have 2 agents there under her that she coaches and a broker here that she also coaches just virtually, right, as expansion. So that's really cool. And it also gives any residential agent on our team who wants to maybe explore that, the ability to do it in-house without having to leave our team too, which is kind of cool.
So I almost heard you just describe almost a growth trajectory that an agent can experience all within your team.
Yeah.
From redshirt to being on the sales side as an independent agent on your team to then being a pod leader and then eventually maybe even getting into the commercial and the coaching side. So there's a clear path for those people that want to achieve the higher goals to do it all within your world.
Right.
You've outlined it for them in a very clear way.
Yep, and I'm big on that. I'm big on that. I learned that from a lot of people within just KW and in the industry. Right, is just you got to have a vision big enough, right, to keep somebody who has a big vision on your team. If you don't get out of the way and provide that big vision, they're going to leave. right? They're going to leave. Let's be honest. So you can't keep everyone, but you can keep a lot of them by simply working on your own self, right? Professionally and personally developing, and therefore attracting that talent, and then hope that talent can realize their dream within your organization, right? And that's the idea. So a graduate path.
How did you come up with the pod model? I'm really interested in the actual terminology of pod and what, where you came up with that idea.
Yeah. So honestly, it was a podcast, right? I really believe, the podcasts like this is how, it's free content. Like you didn't have this 15 years ago, right? When I started, free content, books are free content. Might cost you money for the book, obviously, but it's really good content. So I was listening to a podcast, and this guy in Ohio who was trying to expand. I think it was a different brokerage, even, right? To be honest with you, and he goes, "Yeah, we're trying this thing out, and I think we're gonna try to like create him pot." I don't remember this guy's name. I'd never seen him since, right? I heard him since, I don't think. But I go, that's a brilliant idea because it's scalable, it's expandable. You give someone the authority and the responsibility to lead that pod as well. And so, it's just really, I don't know. I just really felt that for expansion, especially, right? Which if we have big goals on my team as well. And, one of those is to continue to expand, right? We're in Chicago already, but, if you want to expand that, goal, it's a really good way to do it because you can give someone a pod in the city or a part of a city, that kind of thing.
So I understand part of your unique and disruptive value proposition as your team to your agents is this lead generation system. So tell us a little bit about what is that and how does it work?
Yeah, definitely. So if you come into our office, right, you're going to see on a whiteboard that let me back up a second. There's two different things. There's data and there's leads, right? Data and leads. So from a lead generation standpoint, we want to make sure that people always have the ability to obtain, first and foremost, their contacts, okay? From the contacts, then it goes into opportunities, what we call opportunities. Some people call them nurturers, right? And then from there, can you set the appointment, hold it, sign it, and close it, right? That's how we operate it. So it doesn't have to be by the phone, right? We are not someone who says it's one way or the highway if you come on our team, right? You got to bang the phone out and that sort of thing. Now, at the same time, I'm also very clear that is the most efficient way to do it.
Sure.
But it's a one spoke in the wheel, right? If you want to, there's something said for open houses and social media and having a plan to direct market or direct message, on social media, right? And all these other ideas, door knocking, whatever it may be. But with the phone, it's set up to where someone virtually through our dialing system we use, and we happen to use Mojo, which is very popular, obviously, in the real estate industry. We used to use 5.9. You guys may have heard that one. I don't know, but it was a little too much for what we needed. Mojo works really well for us. And the data then that we have is about 8 different data lists, right? So we're talking, first of all, our pond, right, which most big teams have. We have about 29,000 contacts in there. Someone can go fishing in that at any point, right? We have expireds, canceled, FSBOs, the basic ones there. Then we also have $0 transfer lists. We have divorce. We have probate. And we have absentee owners. And we have absentee owners 65 years old or more or older, right? Because, I would argue that if someone owns a house and they're absentee owner and they're 68 years old, you might call them and there just might be a good chance they might want to liquidate, right?
Yeah.
Because they're in retirement. Who knows, right? So we have those lists. So now those lists are updated once a week in our dialing system by one of our assistants. Once a week. So the agent literally, and then we have a script book, okay? A script book that has table contents with several scripts for every single one of those data sets they can obviously use when they call. So, I heard an agent a long time ago say, hey, there's 2 reasons why agents don't pick up the phone and dial, right? Or any salesperson for that matter, right? And it's number 1, they don't know what to say. Number 2, who to call. So we said, okay, and I believe that, right? So if that's the case, how do we create a system to eliminate that? And that's what we did. So now, they're issued a book as one of the many things they get when they come on our team, the script book, right? The physical one, it's obviously on our drive as well in the cloud. And they can just literally log into the dialing system, figure out pick one of the 8 or 9 data sets, hit the big green button that says start, and then away you go, right? We issue them a Bluetooth headset as well, and it's just like they're going, right? So what's cool about that, especially now with COVID, right? If it's more of a virtual atmosphere, if we have expansion example locally, if we're in, which we're not yet, but if we have expansion team in say Goodyear and then one in the Southeast Valley, right? Like, Gilbert or Mesa, that's so easy for that person to just tap in from that office or their home for that matter, right? And just start making the calls, right? They know what to say and who to call.
And you mentioned that earlier. It's a model that's very easily expandable.
Yes.
Much like the pods are, you're building your team around. If and when I choose to expand in the future, this is very easily repeatable and duplicatable anywhere.
Yep. Absolutely. And then on the commercial side, same thing. It's a whole different animal on the commercial side, right? But they have CoStar, right? So we provide our brokers with national CoStar access. And there's several other things like LoopNet and Crexy that we pay for accounts on that as well. So they have the ability now to go in. That's a little bit different because there's not as many aggregators in the space, right? You can just go and buy to give you data, right? They're out there, a little more hard to find. It's more of database building because in the commercial side, we specialize like in on the investment sales side, right? Not necessarily the rent side or the tenant rep. And a lot of it is our niche is medical office, right? So on that side, there's only so many owners of buildings in that niche across the country. And we operate in right now, I think it's like we really have regions built out for the whole country, but we operate in like right now it's 29 states. So most of what we sell on the commercial side we never even touch, right? And so they use that to database and build their database, right? Up with all the building owners. And then once they have it built out for certain states that they own or work in, they then just go through it. And it's funny because we had a call today with our team, and it was like, they're like, hey, we had our business development call today. And half of the agents on my residential side are like, yeah, that sounds fancy. What is that? I go, hey guys, real quick. That's just fancy lingo for cold call, right? so maybe on the residential side, we should say, hey, did you make your business development call today, right? And maybe the mindset will change. So we're going to actually maybe play with that a little bit, right? It's interesting.
I love that. Well, and to pick up on that, I'm interested on your take. Do you think that reality that's already present over in the commercial side with what we're experiencing in COVID, do you think some of that is going to shape residential real estate as a whole?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the thing. Okay, on the commercial side, they have CoStar, which is protected, right? The commercial side never necessarily gave away search like we did, right? 20 years ago, well, not 25 years ago. That's the that's a problem for the residential side of things, right? Which creates a whole different animal of things that we need to do and combat, right? They don't have that, which is, because if you're a guy looking to buy a commercial building, you go, okay, I know I can see some of it on LoopNet, my free account, but even if I pay for that paid account on LoopNet, that's still not everything on the market. And then if I even had a CoStar access, which I really don't, but if I did, which is super expensive, by the way, it's not all on CoStar. It could be on Crexy. It could be some cross-pollination or not. You have some brokerages that specialize in certain niches like 5 to 20 million or whatever, right, on building size or whatever, and they have their in-house sales list, right? But if you go, so you know what, this is really confusing. Let me just call the broker and have them help me, right? And then there you go. And there's the fee that's protected, so to speak, right? So that's a whole nother conversation that I wish the residential side still had. That ship has sailed, but
I appreciate your feedback on that. So you've built this machine that answers two problems that agents have: what to say, who to say it to. You've given that to them. You're now expanding. Give us just a quick summary of your vision for the future. Obviously, you've mentioned expansion. What does that look like in your mind? Yeah, no, good question. So right now we set up there's a book called Traction. By Gino Wickman. I'm sure you guys heard of it. He subsequently wrote a second book, which probably is a little more popular, I think, called Rocket Fuel. Prior to that one, yeah. The Traction one is just phenomenal, right? I mean, it's a operating system that he lays out in the book, which if you're not interested in that kind of stuff, could be boring, right? But I find it very intriguing, actually. And we actually installed or implemented a lot of that. And one of the things that he says you need to do is always have out there a 10-year vision, right? You need to have the 3-year and the 1 year too, but the 10-year you need to have out there for a lot of reasons, which are very, very noteworthy. So in 2017, I put that out there, right? And I made a path as to how to get there. This is for our whole team. Anyone who wants to be part of our organization could see it. And it's bold and it's brash as it should be, right? And I look at it sometimes and laugh myself, to be honest with you, right? But I know, like with any good leader, I'm not going to be able to get there myself, not even close, right? It's going to take, hopefully, getting in business with the right people, and they want to drive the bus and get out of their way, right, and support them. So we're constantly working for that and looking for talent for that method. But right now, that 10-year vision was 3,300 units closed in year 10, right, which is 2027. And see, last year we closed 190, right? So we're just a little off, right, with about 8 years to go, right? So, or not 7 years ago. So we have a ways to go, but it was still good to cool to see because, guys, I tell you right now, as a way to eliminate people when you interview them,
when you come in, you put that on the board as one of the first things you do when you interview the agent, right? They still could be a good agent for your team, but you know right away what kind of person they are because their eyes light up when they see that and go, oh my gosh, as soon as they grasp it, like that's really cool. Or they just go, like what? Like that's so and that doesn't mean they're a bad person. They could be a great agent, but they're not someone who's going to be anywhere close to an empire builder.
Right, driving the bus. It gives you immediate insight into, is this a leader that I'm going to potentially have a different pathway for?
Yeah.
And I like what you just said about empire builder, right? Because that's something that I would use to distinguish a very particular kind of person. And to your point, somebody could still be talent. They just may not be an empire builder.
Right.
And so when you're hiring people to expand your team, you really have to know what you're looking for and what are the qualities of an empire builder versus cul-de-sac talent, right, as Kristen would call it. Why are you laughing?
Well, I was just thinking about an empire needs citizens. So an empire builder versus an empire citizen.
An empire citizen. There
See,
you
they should
go.
use that. It makes more sense.
They'll coin a new term.
Man, this is good stuff. Yeah. But that's true. The cul-de-sac talent is I use the same thing. I think I read that in the Red Book, many years ago, and it's capacity versus cul-de-sac talent, right? And it's amazing that when I described it to somebody, what that means, right? They're like, oh yeah, I kind of get that, right? And man, we all want that capacity talent, but it's just not prevalent out there a lot, right? You got to search for that.
And this is particularly important. You mentioned earlier, right in the middle of your org chart is your admin team.
Yes.
Because they truly are the backbone.
Yes.
They're the synergy between the ever-flowing door of agents that come and go from your team. But with a strong administrative team, you always have that culture, that synergy between the different departments of your company. And they're going to be the ones that are going to help you hold it together.
No doubt about it. And I tell you what, we have some great ones right now. And that it's by far the best staff that I've ever personally had, right? And I've had my challenges like most of us have when we grow and trying to learn. Part of it was my probably bad leadership, right, in the past, right? And I'm not perfect yet, but I'm always trying to work on be better at being a leader, because like the people I have right now, I want to keep them. I want to help them. I want to make sure they see their dreams and goals realized too. And so I'm very fortunate right now with from that standpoint. Yet at the same time, we're always looking for more people to bring on that wants to help, because there's so many different ways to drive that bus, right? You need all hands on deck.
So we talked a lot about your kind of awkward beginnings, and then we got into some of the success that you had, right? And I think that's really great. Tell me about something a little bit more recent, a failure or a lesson learned as a leader, something that maybe you took a misstep or too quick to action or maybe too slow to action. What's something that's happened in the past few years that was a good lesson learned for you at this point in your career?
I think it's okay. I'll stick on the administrative side, right? It's not taking the time, not firing fast enough. We hear that a lot, but it's funny because I've heard that a lot of stories on that. But yet that's the first thing that came to my mind when you said that, because I could think of an individual that there was just not, because you didn't want to deal with it, right? And so and it wasn't like egregious, right? It was just these little things here and there, and that individual just kept pushing the limit, and we recognize it, but not do anything about it. Maybe little things. Sweep
it on the rug though, and kind of deal with it, but not really.
Yes. And I'm fortunate that in acting like that as a leader, which is not good leadership, there wasn't domino effects, right? The other people didn't leave because of that, right? Which I know often that happens.
Right.
And so that's the biggest thing I would say is like, it's one thing. Okay, it's like being a landlord, right? Here's what I've done this the wrong way too, right? Because I'm a landlord. Is the tenant doesn't pay rent when it's due on the first of the month, right? And so, but because whatever reason you're busy or you like them or whatever, right? You wait 3 or 4 days, then you hit them with a text. Hey, where's it at? And then whatever, some excuse, and then you don't send the 5-day notice to quit or pay, which is the first part of the legal process in the state of Arizona, right?
Right.
And all it is a certified letter, takes 2 seconds, but you don't send it, right? And this has happened to me like last year. And so you just they give some excuse and you hope, and then before you know it, a whole month goes by and you still miss, and it's not going to happen now. And then you start to send a letter, and then they're squatting, and then they file bankruptcy and include the lease inside the bankruptcy.
Right.
And then, right, all this stuff.
Now you're a whole month behind the process.
Oh my goodness. That one I was like 4 months behind because I simply just didn't say, okay, the rules are the rules.
Right.
On the first it's due. And if it's not due, it's no personal vendetta against you, right? I'm just got to do what I got to do to protect myself, So I'm going to mail out this 5-day letter on the 2nd. And then if you choose to pay before then, great. If not, I'll continue the process of the eviction.
Sure.
And then you can decide what you want to do.
So bring me back to the situation with the administrator on your team.
Yeah.
After that person was gone, did you notice a shift in energy or in culture on the team? I mean, talk to me about the actual results that the learning part of this experience.
Yes, it's funny, and every time that happens, you can just feel the weight lifted. And it's funny because our director of operations, she basically was like, I just feel like. I feel like a weight has kind of been lifted, right? And me too, without question. And I know that other people on the team, some people came up and said the same thing, right? And usually what it is more of that negative energy, right? Because with that, people kind of are just feeling that. I can feel it. I feel it, but I put up with it because I just don't. Maybe if I just say one more thing that's funny, he'll laugh and it'll be funny. It'll be okay, right? But man, yeah, absolutely. There's no question.
So my last question on this particular line is I think we all kind of know fundamentally, just like you said, you had heard in the past many times that don't wait or don't drag your feet on letting somebody go. So what advice do you give to somebody who maybe is in that position with an administrator or with anybody on their team where they know it's the right choice, they just haven't been able to bring themselves to pull the trigger yet?
Two things. And I thought about this a lot, so I'm glad you asked this question, right? Because this is what we're going to do from here on out, right? And I need to be held accountable by my coach to do this, right? Number one, when they're first hired, it's a 30, 60, 90 job extension, right? Not like we all the 30, 60, 90 playbook for onboarding. No, I'm talking, well, that too, but I'm talking 30 days, we'll reevaluate, and you got to keep your job for 30 more, right? 30 more, up to 90 days. Now, 90 days, cool. Well, I think we're good. It's more of a permanent position now, with these rules. Second thing, always have an ad out there on the job boards for that position. Make it a super low budget, right? But just have a few things coming in because you never know. Like, what if you just happen to stumble across someone super talented that just fell in your lap for some weird reason, and yeah, you don't necessarily, because let's say the person that they'd be replacing is doing a great job. Well, what else could you now do with that person? Or what if you gave that person a referral to another person like you, David, or whatever that needed, or maybe you didn't know, but you just reached out and said, hey, I got somebody who's phenomenal. Here you go, right? There's so many things you can do with that. That's only going to cost a few bucks a month, and that's what we did not do. So one of the reasons why we waited too long is because we didn't have a bench at all.
Right.
Not even the creation of a bench. We didn't have the bench even built, they didn't sit on.
Well, I can hear the cynics right now listening to this saying two things. How in the world do I set up a process and a system that actually says I'm in a relationship with you for 30 days and you'll earn your next 30 and then you'll earn your next 30 and how do I have someone on my team already and still have a job posting out there? Like, what's that going to do to the dynamic? I hear this all the time. What do you think? Like, how do you respond to that objection?
Well, I think if you do it after the fact, that's going to be a problem, right? It's going to be hard to do. So you have to let them know before they're hired, this is what is going to happen, right? And the good news is it's 100% in your court. And I really believe, and I can't say this for sure because I have not personally done it yet. This will happen on the next hire, which, by the way, we're in the process of doing that right now, okay? That when they know that's the case, I just have a feeling you're going to see the best out of them, even more so.
Now they're earning their job.
You're setting the expectation. I think that's really the thing, right? Where everything in life is about managing expectations personally and professionally. Mm-hmm. And if we just have that system and we set that expectation, we live into that. I think of the story about, some big agent coming in, selling like 20 houses in his first month just because in his head someone had said that was the expectation. And so he said, if I'm going to have my job, I'm going to sell 20 houses this month. And then the next month when he found out, no, that's not reality, and he sold 2. Right? Like it's a mindset shift. And so if we just set that stage, we set that expectation, you do that with your team, and you have someone like a coach, like you mentioned, that actually can help you, give you that system, I think you'll find a world of difference in the talent that you bring into your world.
Absolutely. And for anybody that doesn't know, 30, 60, 90, as far as how do I actually do that, that's actually a class that Keller Williams has built and is taught regularly, now virtually, for people to really understand when they're hiring somebody, what does a 30-day at a time hire look like? How do you have that conversation? And what realistically should be on their checklist of expectations and things to get done?
And as with everything in real estate and any business venture, it's about taking that knowledge and actually implementing.
That's right. Guys, I'm telling you right now, like big plug for that course too. I'm telling you, I took that course and I've taken that course as well as the next one after that, Success Through Others, right?
Right.
And those are the two that a lot of people don't talk about. So now that I'm going to have that standard that's going to be for the next hire, I need to brush up on the 30, 60, 90 course, right? I got the book. I got the notes, right? I need to go in there and reread it again one more time to make sure, because that's very, very powerful. It's the playbook right there in front of you. It's already done for you.
So I want to touch on, okay, you got in through a landlord changing an air filter, and in knowing your business a little bit and talking, you invest in real estate as well, something that both of us are super passionate about. Talk to us a little bit about, what your worlds look like there.
Yeah, totally. So right now I have 14 rental properties, and the goal is to get to, which I'll probably start doing some more multifamily, right? Duplexes, triplexes, of the sort, maybe larger if possible, right? But I really enjoy that part, the whole hedging and the risk and the operation of that in terms of how you optimize that rent stuff is really interesting to me. But the goal is to get to 50 by the age, doors at that point now, by the age I'm 50. So I have almost 9 years, right? A little over 9 years. To do that. So that's
you
the
look
goal.
So much younger than that.
Oh, thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. Man, you know what? That's what they tell me all the time.
Never mind.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right, so 50 doors by 50.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. It's easy for me to remember that way. No, I'm just kidding. But
Sure.
but honestly, like that is a goal, and I think it can be done. It's funny because for a while there, I was just plotting. My goal was to buy one minimum per year, and for the last 8 years, when I set that goal, for the most part, it's been done. I did miss a year or two, but I bought 2 the next year, right? So it's pretty much been that done. There's this book it's an old school book, man, called by Robert G. Allen. And I want to say it's like, it might just be like investing in real estate. It's something very simple, but Robert G. Allen, it's a white book with like blue and red lettering. But I read that many, many years ago, and he had this pretense, right? He goes, "Do you want to be a millionaire in this book?" And, of course, the reader's like, "Sure, yeah, of course I do," right? And he made some really simple, stupid like analogy of how you do it through real estate, right? And here, I'm going to screw it up, but here's the pretense. If you bought one house a year at $100,000, value, which like doesn't exist anymore, right? But somewhere it does, right? I'm sure maybe Nebraska it does, or Maine, right? Yep. But $100,000 a year, and you did that for I think it was 5 years. Okay, you have $500,000 of equity. Or not equity, excuse me, of property value that you own. Then you have debt on those, right? You put 20% down on all those, right? And make a long story short, you end up you do 10 houses in 10 years, okay? But what happens is with a certain appreciation assumption, right, of like 6% a year or something like that, he uses in there, and you pay down that debt at with the interest rate in your loan of 6% or less, right? Which easily now is the case, right? Because this is written like in the late 80s, I think, or 90s. But it makes this pretense that if you then use the equity off the homes that you first bought, that you now have in the first 5 years, to pay off the $500,000 homes in the back half of the 5 years, he had the whole calculation in there. But basically, by the end of 10 years, okay, you now have, it was 2 homes here. My apologies. So double that, right? You had 10 homes and 10 homes. You use the first 10 to pay off the second 10. You now have 10 homes because you sold 10 of them at the very end of 10 years, paid them off. You now have 10 homes that you own free and clear worth $100,000 each if the appreciation was like nothing, pretty much you said.
Right.
For $1 million, right? I mean, I really butchered that, but the pretense is very simple. I was like, holy cow, it's so easy if you just buy 2 homes a year.
Yeah. And the idea being take equity out of one, pay off the other, and now you're cash flowing.
Yep.
And the idea being, and we were just talking about this, how appreciation works.
Oh, man.
Let's say you buy an investment property and you put 20% into the deal. You're earning, let's say conservative, 4% appreciation per year, which means if you buy that $100,000 asset, in theory, in 1 year, it's worth 104. And then 108 and change. And it continues to grow by 4% every year, while you're simultaneously having the mortgage paid off by the renters.
Yep.
So equity's being built, you take that equity, dump it into the next property, and then just domino effect.
Yep. That's it.
We'll have to plug for our real estate investing courses and networking groups when they come back post-COVID. But
for sure.
We'll leave that where
Totally,
that is.
man. I love it, guys. I love that you're passionate about it. I'm passionate about it. It's the amount of options you have when you control that asset are incredible.
Yeah. I asked myself a simple question a few years ago. What if I could buy a property that I never had to sell? What if every house that I ever bought, starting at 20 years old, I got into and never had to sell? I think we boil it down even further. You will be wealthy. You will hit your goals.
By the way, who's the first person to see a deal even before it hits the market?
Usually realtors.
The real estate agent making the phone call, grinding the streets. So why isn't every agent that wants to invest, if that's part of their plan, asking themselves on every listing appointment, is this a home that I should be buying?
Yep. We just had that talk today in our team meeting again, right? About be the principal, right? Be the principal first, then the representative, right? Give the consumer an option.
Yeah.
We just talked with Ryan Murdoch a couple episodes ago about this whole wear the investor hat, wear the agent hat, how you flip those back and forth. It's an important conversation, one I know that we'll dive into more. I think that we need to dive into the last segment of our show, which are the same 3 questions that we ask every single guest. And you want to kick us off?
Here we go.
All right.
3, 2, 1,
Uh-oh.
action.
Uh-oh.
Kelly, number 1. The first question is
Getting
rapid
nervous.
fire round. Here we go.
Where's my buzzer?
Yeah, right, exactly. Who is the most influential person on your business and why?
On my business. Oh, man. It's kind of sad to say. I never really had a mentor, to be honest with you, man. It's funny because, okay, I would say my influential person in my business, it would probably be, I mean, this is kind of a cop-out, but probably Gary Keller. Honestly, man, I met the guy a couple times. He probably doesn't know my name. I don't know, right? But I have the ability to be in his mastermind. But I never had that mentor, that coach. I mean, I have a coach now, right? And don't get me wrong, but I mean, I've had coaches in business for the last several years, but I never had that mentor who took me under the wing and said, "This is how you do it," right? So everything I've learned has been by myself just doing it. So I'd say Gary Keller at this point, because everything that he talks about and has written about and does even in person today is just dynamite, man. It's outstanding. It's extremely smart. He's a visionary. And I'd say if there's a second one, it'd probably be Robert Kiyosaki. If we're talking about people that we don't really know but are still mentors to us. I mean, I never forget the first book I ever read on investing or anything about money at all was his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Right.
And I was my college age buddy when I was probably 22 or 21. His mom gave me the book. And I never forget it. And I don't know why she did it. I don't remember the situation, but she had it laying around the house. And I read it. I'm like, wow, right? Like that. I didn't know any of that. Like none of that. And it's like this is so cool, right? And I just dove in from there. So I'd say that's probably it.
Well, that's a perfect segue into question number 2.
Number 2 is, what is the most impactful book that you've ever read, or if you want to just think in the short term, something that you're reading right now?
Yeah, okay, I'll say right now, the honest answer, we just touched it. It really was Rich Dad Poor Dad. But I'm going to give you another one here that I would say is my number 1 book of all time is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
And one I don't think we've had before.
We haven't heard that one yet. That's a great answer.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly is, guys. And I'm 40 now. So my time is not as prevalent, right?
Grandpa,
I know, right? Compared to you guys, I'm a grandpa over here, right? I feel really old, actually. But you guys, on the other hand, have this gift called time, right?
Sure.
And honestly, like we have part of our onboarding program. As an agent coming on our team, we have to read 3 books in the first 3 months, 1 a month. One of those 3 is The Compound Effect, of course, right? And a lot of these the agents are in the 20s, And I'm like, guys, you have no idea. Right? So let me help you. I'm very passionate about this. I'm not a financial planner whatsoever, but I do like to help them plan from a budgeting standpoint, right? Let me help you figure out, even if you don't make that much money, how you save or don't spend the money you do have, and therefore how to allocate it so that then it's there and available for you to invest in at an early age. Because compound interest is what? The 8th wonder of the world, right? According to Warren Buffett.
Yeah. Awesome.
And this isn't part of our 3, 2, 1 action round, but I did want to ask, did you ever meet Warren Buffett just living in his backyard?
Yes.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
I did. Only because I was fortunate to play football at the University of Nebraska. He's in Omaha. He's a big Nebraska fan. And he literally, quick story, guys, he literally came into one of our it was the night before we were playing big game. We were playing at home versus Texas or something, right? It was like, top 25 matchup. He comes in the night before and he's talking to us, right? And he has this like old school leather, like Nebraska with the N on, a coat on, right? And he comes in there with Charlie Munger, right? He's like number 2 of Berkshire, right? They both come in there and he gives us a talk. And it's funny because he started the talk off by going, okay, now I forget what the pretense of the story was even about, right? But it was so funny, dude, because he was like, you know what? Okay, guys, here's the deal. Tomorrow, you guys go out there, you give it your all, and you win, okay? Think about what type of car you would like me to buy for each one of you? And like, they just stopped, look at everybody, like, and he wasn't smiling, right? And like all of a sudden, like, there's a lot of guys who are like, 21, 20, who probably didn't come from very much money, right? Who all of a sudden, like, their eyes light up going, oh shit, right? Oh shit, hey man, what's up? I'll give me that Jaguar, give me that Mercedes, And it was for like a minute, he let it go, right? And it was just like, everyone's just fired up, right? And like, he goes, okay. It calmed down. He goes, okay, now, I'm not going to do that for you guys tomorrow, right? And it was like, what? He goes, but did you see that excitement and passion you had when I said that? He goes, what if, now tomorrow's a big game. I have no doubt you'll be passionate for that. But how about Monday after the game, whether you win or lose? How passionate would you be Monday through Thursday about doing your job? He goes, because that is what it's about. And more importantly, most of you in this room won't go on to play professional sports. So you need to find something that you're that passionate, that you just showed me you are that passionate about when you go to find a job or start your business or whatever you decide to do. Because if you can figure out a way to do that, sky's the limit. You'll be as successful as I am, right? And we're like, okay, well, that's successful, right? But like, the point, I'm like, wow, I'm sitting there, I've got goosebumps from Warren, the Oracle, right? I'm sitting there going, holy cow, right? Like, first of all, I thought I had a car. Second of all, I don't, but that's still a good lesson, right? But
such a valuable lesson.
Yes.
Unbelievable from the Oracle himself.
Yes. Right. That's the one time I had a chance to meet him in person. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Take us home.
Great story. All right. This is 3, 2, 1 Action, and of course the All In Podcast, where we're all about people taking action, pushing their chips all in, and actually making a proactive attempt to change their trajectory in their future. So here's the last question, Kelly. What actionable step can our listeners go take right now today to move the needle in their business?
Okay. Can I deviate that from just a second? I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna give you that answer, but it's
as long as it's good.
Oh, it's good. Okay, it's gonna be good. Okay, because I'm passionate about this. Here's what I'd say. Right now, before the day is up, right, and this actually goes along the line of the book Profit First, right? Which, by the way, David, for you listeners, David suggested to all the top agents in our company, right, at Keller Williams here, to read. Right now, I'd already read it like 3 times prior to that, right? Because I just found this book to be just phenomenal, but. What I would do, action item number 1 today, right? Go to your bank where you bank, right? And I can guarantee most listeners won't have this done already, as maybe astute as they are. And go to your bank, take the bank where your checking account is at or your savings account, where all the operating expenses go out of and all the income comes into, and set up 3 other accounts, okay, right now that tie to that main bank account, and label them this. Number 1. Taxes. Number 2, giving or charity. And number 3, investing. And that could be real estate investing or whatever you want, but investing. And then allocate a percentage of any income you get towards those 3 accounts.
I love it.
Do it. Because here's what's going to happen, guys. Talk about the compound interest. What's going to happen is you do that. I don't care if it's 1% of you get a check for $100 that you help someone find a rental, right? And it's 1%. Then as silly as that sounds, go there as fast as you can, deposit that check. As fast as you can get to an internet connection on your app, you move $1 into that account. And what's going to happen is, because it happened for me many times over now, which is awesome, you look up one day in that account and you go, holy cow, I have $20,000 and now I can go shopping because I have enough for a down payment on a $100,000 investment house or whatever it is, right? And then that's it. It's just it's a system, and you're disciplined, because we all know if you let that money stay in one account and it's co-mingled, so to speak, right, with everything else you want to spend money on, it ain't gonna go to investing because you're like, I got this money, I'm gonna spend it,
Yeah, right.
That so is, that's what I would do. It's fantastic advice. It's simple. You can go do that right now. We had a similar conversation, a wealth building thing that we had right here in the office, and we said the same thing. I love that you also said as fast as possible, because we know if we don't take action right now, it doesn't get done. So take that check, take that commission check, go allocate it like Kelly said, get it out of sight, out of mind, pretend it's not yours, and a world of good is going to come from it. I love
that
it.
Advice.
Awesome. I think that's about it.
Dude, I think I got no more. I'm about to pass out. I have nothing more to give. I don't know.
This is like 3-a-days at Nebraska. Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the All In Podcast. Smash the subscribe button. Leave us a rating and review. It's how we grow. It's how we spread across the world and can bring you more guests just like Kelly, who can help teach you about going all in on your life and real estate business. We'll see you next episode.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the All In Podcast. We want to invite you to find all of today's resources from our show page at aipodcast.co. We also ask that you take just 1 minute to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. This is how we grow and how we're able to bring you the best content each and every week. Now go play all in.